There it goes. Okay, all right, everybody. Well, the StreamYard was being a little slow, so that's why you said okay there. Probably heard me say okay there it goes at the very beginning of this, but nonetheless, we're live. Once again, welcome back to TriState Football's Monday Night Rewind. Of course, as always, I am your host Daniel Kuhn, along with my co-host Jacob Berkemeier, and we're back again to talk about more high school football from the tri-state area. Of course, we are getting into, I guess the weeds, maybe, is that the, I don't
Yeah.
know, that sounds right. We're getting down to it here. We're on to the regional finals in Ohio, and then I believe Kentucky is already on to the quarterfinals.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we'll talk about it in a little bit, but Indiana's we don't have anything else to
India.
talk about anymore.
Our Indiana teams have fallen. East Central and Lawrenceburg both were defeated. East Central lost to Cathedral, and then Lawrenceburg. Let me look real quick. They fell to Cascade, 37-33. So unfortunately, our Indiana coverage, we will not be covering much of that anymore. But it gives us some more time for some fun in Ohio
Yeah.
and Kentucky, which with that, we'll just transition right in to, I'm sure, what everybody, has been kind of talking about if you're tapped into high school football on this side of town. This Elder Princeton game, and then the St. X and Moeller game. So
Yes, I will say really quickly, just because I don't want to leave our Indiana fans hanging. I don't think that's a. I'm not. I mean, obviously, you're upset you lose the playoffs, but losing to Cathedral is nothing to be ashamed of. That's a
no,
really good
yeah.
program. I don't know anything about Cascade, so I can't speak for
I think we
Lawrenceburg. But
looked last week. Both teams had pretty good records all
yeah,
year. I think Cascade was undefeated, so took them down to the wire. But really, so to kind of move forward, we got this Elder and Princeton matchup, which was just a doozy on Friday night. I mean, Princeton got out to a 23-0 lead. So 17-0 at halftime, and then Princeton returned the opening kick for a touchdown to take a 23-0 lead. So I know I was texting you a little bit. I didn't
hmm
cover a game this week. I think James was at the Elder game for us this week.
yes,
And I mean, I was looking at stuff. I had some buddies who were at the game too, giving me live updates. And um, I know a lot of us were thinking, maybe Elder's perfect season is, it's over.
I,
And
yeah.
they stormed back, and I mean, you can add whatever you were going to say as well.
I will say this. I was covering the Anderson LaSalle game, which we'll get to here soon, but I was obviously keeping up pretty closely all night with the stuff, everything that was going on in Region 4, because that's obviously where we have the most teams
Mhm.
left in one single
Yeah, bracket.
bracket, right? So you're just keeping an eye on it, and I'm not going to lie to you. When I saw the update come through at the beginning of the second half in that game, which I believe it was halftime at the Anderson game, I saw that tweet come through that they had returned the touchdown, the opening kickoff for touchdown. Like I think it's done.
hmm
Like I think Elder's in a bad way here. And listen, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Elder when I say like, oh, I think their season's done, right? But that's a tough, and you know what I mean. Princeton's a good team.
Yeah.
I mean, they go toe to toe with the big dogs in the GCL South all the time. X Elder. I don't know if they played Elder this regular season. Maybe they did. Um, X and Moeller though for sure. My point is that this is just an insane comeback from the Panthers, and I think I'll let you kind of talk through it because you're a little better about reading interpreting the box scores.
Yeah.
Maybe than I am, but Jacob, I'll tell you right now, looking at the box score myself and kind of going through all the different statistics here, the first thing that jumps out off the page to me is Cade Neestep with just,
Yeah.
I mean, what an incredible performance. And I'll let you kind of talk through that.
Yeah. He had, so this might be the most he's attempted passing the ball in a game
Mm-hmm.
this year. He had 47 attempts, went 24 for 47, 315, one touchdown, one pick. But here's the real story is him on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
He had 20 rushes, 113 yards, three touchdowns. Now, Doug Ramsey loves having quarterbacks who can run the football.
Mm-hmm.
And what did we talk about, I think, throughout the whole year with Elder? If they can keep their run game and rely on their defense, they're going to be a really hard team to beat in the playoffs because they've done a really good job all year of taking care of the football. Yes, they had one turnover today, but when you're getting 113 yards and three touchdowns out of your quarterback, and then Tommy Becker, who we've talked about a lot this year, he's had a phenomenal season. 16 for 68, no touchdowns, but I will say he had two huge 2-point conversions, especially when you look at those two-point conversions are the difference in that game. It's 32-30, and it helped them kind of get momentum and get back into the game. They were able to tie it 23-23 with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and then Princeton comes down and scores with a minute left. Andrew Wells had a really good game. He had two touchdowns, and they took the lead 30-23. So even if you're in Princeton's shoes, you're thinking, okay, like all we need is one stop here, and we're getting out of this with a win. And, then, Jackson Ruth, 75-yard pass from Estep. So, I mean, how about the clutch genes on Caden Estep, too? That's first play from scrimmage, pretty much. First or second play from scrimmage on that drive. He uncorks a 75-yard, touchdown. And then they went for two to try and take the lead and didn't get it. So now all of a sudden you get the ball back as Princeton 2. You're like, all we got to do is get one first down, win this game. That Elder defense comes through in the clutch, last minute of the game, gets a stop. And then Elder was able to get back down the field, and Adam Ray kicked a 22-yard field goal to win the game. So absolutely electric finish. And, one of these Elder kids that was in the student section at one of the games I was at, it's kind of making me eat my words to him because he was chirping me like Caden Estep's the best quarterback in Ohio and all this stuff. And I was like, I don't know, Matt Ponatowski, he's pretty good, man. And, dude, Caden Estep, he's taken Elder, further than Moeller so far this year, and he's had just an absolutely incredible year. And I mean, I would imagine that he's turning a lot of college coaches' heads with the season that he's put together, and I would expect a lot of offers to roll in for him as well moving forward. But I mean, it's just crazy that Princeton had back-to-back games like this where, I mean, Elder total yardage. Elder had 491, almost 500 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Princeton had 198. So this is back-to-back games where they've just gotten absolutely dominated in terms of total yardage, time of possession, third down, fourth down efficiency. And I mean, man, Princeton should have won this game too. That's the crazy thing. It's like they had the lead. So I just think, it's a rough way to go out for Princeton, but not something to get too down on yourself for moving to next year. I think it's just, they got to get a quarterback, I think, for next year. The game I was at last week, not the Elder Princeton game, but the Princeton Winton Woods game, they had two or three quarterbacks rotate and were really struggling to throw the ball. And I think, when you're a little one-dimensional, it hurts, and you could tell kind of with their offense. But, man, they were getting so many special teams play, back-to-back weeks, kickoff return for a touchdown. It's like to start the second half. It's like that's such a momentum swing right there. But I mean, these Elder Panthers, man, and I don't want to not talk about the defense either, because Andrew Paff forced a fumble and Pete Fortcamp recovered it. Derek Uran had 8 total tackles. Brody Turner 10 total tackles. As a team, they had 6.5 tackles for loss. So just this Elder defense, man, they've been unreal all year. I know they gave up 30 this week.
Well, I mean, not really.
but you get out with a win, and guess what? They got to stop when it mattered most. Minute left to go in the game. Your offense tries to go take the lead and win it for you. You're down 1. You need to stop. They come through. So, just a huge game from them.
I think the Elder defense, if we're being technical here, I think they gave up what, uh, 17
20.
points.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. I mean, there's nothing they could do
Right.
about kickoff. Well, I guess special teams like kickoff team is slightly
Yeah.
defense, so maybe you could count that. But like a field goal block for return for touchdown, that's not on them. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm wondering if we can get the elder defensive coordinator. I don't know who it is, so apologies. I wonder if we can get him to be the coach of the Bengals. Maybe we can shape up the Bengals with elders defensive style. But no, I kid.
Yeah.
I think like Jacob hit the nail on the head, right? I mean, the biggest takeaway for me from this game is just Tommy Becker has been such a stalwart for that elder offense all year, and truthfully, Friday night wasn't necessarily his best game. I mean, don't get me wrong; he still had 70 yards on the ground. That's nothing to not disregard, but not like the normal dominance I think we're normally used to seeing out of him. And Caden Estep just picked up the slack, right?
Yeah.
And listen, we talk about it on this show all the time. Good teams find ways to win. And Elder, I've been skeptical a little bit all year. Just not in a negative way, just unsure how they would fare come playoff time. And they've proven me, I mean, not wrong, but they've proven that they are absolutely worthy of that one seed. And I think
Yeah.
that they're if they can get through this next matchup, they're heavy favorites for the state title.
Absolutely. And I mean, they have one of the coolest stories too, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because literally nobody preseason was really
Mm-hmm.
hyping them up to be like, nobody would have thought Elder is undefeated at this point, and they've just blocked out all the noise, have been dominant all year, found ways to find tough wins too, and they'll have to do the same thing next week because, transitioning into our next game, Saint X, man, they are peaking at the right time, and they are just proving us wrong from our terrible pick a couple weeks ago with the X
Oh,
and East game.
come on,
But
man! It's terrible. It
yeah, it
felt
was
right.
not a. It felt right at the time, but
Yeah, they proved us wrong.
Saint X has been really good coming off their back to back kind of off weeks. The team
Mm-hmm.
that they were supposed to play week 10 backed out, so they had a week 10 bye week, then the first round of the playoffs, and man, did they work on some stuff, and they look primed for. I mean, this Elder Saint X game is probably one of the most highly anticipated playoff games in recent memory, and people are kind of talking about is the venue going to change? But tickets sold out in an hour today, I believe. So all 7,000 seats at Mason will be filled up on Friday for that game. But to get back to this X and Moeller game, just an impressive performance by X, I think, to really just shut down this Moeller offense. I mean, Moeller still put up 13 points. And, if you're looking at the box score, you see like Ponitowski 22 for 35, 325, one touchdown. It's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
normal day at the office for, Matt Ponitowski. But, Tyler Jocelyn only had 16 carries for 45 yards. They held Moeller's run game to something respectable where they weren't gashing them for yards every drive. And I mean, Jackson Frey, he's come along a long way, I think, from the start of the season too. He's been playing good football. 19 for 28, 261, one touchdown. And I mean, I just love that this Balmer offense is using Daniel Vollmer as a running back again. And I think that's been a huge key to their success too. You get your best players in playmaking spots. I mean, Vollmer had a touchdown, was 11 attempts for 52 yards. And we know what X's defense is about. You
Mm-hmm.
know that they got 4 or 5 Power 5 guys in that secondary linebacking core. But I mean, they've really surprised me because I think when I saw them week 1, I, little skeptical, you knew they had the talent, but it was just, they were struggling to kind of put it together. And I think they've really found their groove and their stride here at the perfect time. And, this upcoming matchup between Elder and St. X, I'm just excited for the defense. And like, what offense is going to kind of separate themselves and be able to get that big chunk play or a long scoring play kind of shift the momentum in this game.
First of all, Jacob takes the words right out of my mouth. The reason why we work so well together is because we have similar views on a lot of things. I think
Yeah.
the biggest takeaway from this game for me was if we go back. You don't actually have to, but if you go back to the game they played earlier this year in the regular season, Moeller was pretty much won that game on the back of the use their running game to really kind of take good control of that game and win it. And X came out and they stopped them. Ponitowski did not have a bad night by any means, but I think that Elder X found the secret. I want to say secret sauce, but the winning formula to try to take down Moeller this year, right? I think we kind of saw Eds do that earlier in the year as well. They handled that Moeller running game. I don't know if Moeller just didn't have the weapons this year they needed on the outside of the offensive line or offensive. I just lost my train of thought. If they didn't have the wideouts, the skill guys, right, to necessarily sustain what they did last year. But what I'm getting at is I think one thing, if we move on, this is the first time Moeller's I'm getting my stuff mixed up, Jacob. This is the first time X has beaten Moeller in I think 7 straight times. Yeah. Moeller had pretty much dominated this matchup for quite a while, and X got the monkey off their back. It's going to give them a huge amount of momentum. Listen, this is what I'm going to tie in here to the matchup between them and Elder. For a long time, and correct me if I'm wrong here, right? Elder and X was like the rivalry in the city for a very, very long time. And then Moeller kind of came along, and Moeller and X started to really get after it,
Yeah, I feel like it would rotate kind of between Elder and X depending on the year, but it was like for the last 5 to 7 years, probably it's been leaning Moeller a little bit more.
I can't speak for X and Elder because I didn't go to either one of those schools, but I can speak for the Moeller side of things, right? It definitely felt like, at least for the last 10 years back when I was a youngin, and still in high school, it felt like that was the game. But my point is that this is set up to be maybe the biggest X Elder game in a long, long time.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And listen, don't get me wrong, Moeller and X, we always talk about that being such a big game. I think this one might be bigger. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Obviously they're playing for a regional championship in the first place. That makes it bigger on paper, but I think this game just has all the feelings attached to it. I think Elder's this is their chance to stake their claim. This was our league this year. This was our town this year. But for me, it's going to be a battle of the running games, I think, between these two teams. Like you had said, I keep getting them all mixed up. I don't know why. X has found something in the last month or so, putting Vollmer back at running back. It has worked.
It's just putting your best players at positions, playmaking positions. And I think you put those players in the right spot, they can go out and make plays. But I think with this matchup, the other interesting thing to note, and I know Greg will have a stat on it, I just don't have it right now, but one, how many times Doug Ramsey and Steve Speck have matched up against each other total, and then how many times they've matched up in the playoffs against each other too. There's so much history with those two coaches kind of being staples in the GCL. I think Moeller and LaSalle have had a little bit more coaching turnover, not like in a bad way. It's just, Elders
they've been there for forever.
Ramsey's been there since I think the late '90s, or maybe as assistant in the early '90s, but at least as a head coach. And then I think same with Speck was a little bit early 2000s. But just so much history between those two coaches. So we're in for a good one with that one. And again, that game will be played at Mason. I think Mason plays at the high school, I believe. I can't remember if they're like Sycamore where they play. So this location right here, if you were lucky enough to get tickets, good for you. If not, I'm sure it will be streaming on Spectrum or on Elders Sports Network or St. X's Sports Network. And you can also tune in to ESPN 1530 on Friday night. I know the guys do the play-by-play on that as well.
Look at the
before we come
plug.
on.
Look at the plug Jacob just threw in there, ladies and gentlemen. That's impressive. That was good. Just a quick history dive, Jacob. I just went back and looked for a second. This is the first time Moeller. I keep getting them mixed up. This is the first time X and Elder have played each other in the playoffs since 2021. In that year, it was a first round matchup. X beat Elder 42-7. So
yeah, because I think was that after Elder's state championship run? Was their state championship run in 2020?
Was it during COVID? I don't know. Well, let's find out. So I pull that up for you.
Or was
really
it 2019? I guess it was 2019. It might have been 2019, but
no, they went to they went pretty far into the. Oh no, I guess that was the third round. So maybe it was 2019.
I think it was 2019. That was like Luby's year, and
you're right. They went all the way to the finals and lost to Pick Central.
Yeah, but yeah. So obviously, a ton of GCL South talk right there. And there's solid 20 minutes. We are going to move on finally. And I kind of wanted to do this because I feel like we haven't really highlighted the middies a lot. But Middletown got the win over Springfield 14-0. And they play Huber Heights Wayne, which Danny was on about that one from the start with this, Region 2, Division 1 bracket here. Wayne beat Troy 20-14, but I really just wanted to kind of take a few minutes to talk about Middletown and the season that they've had because, and they did luck out getting into this region, but I mean, it's huge that they've kind of moved on this way. They've had a really good year, tied for first in the GMC, or they might have won GMC outright, actually. I mean, no, came in second. Princeton ended up getting GMC outright. But wanted to highlight their quarterback, Joseph Ward. He's thrown for over 1,000 yards so far this year, 8 touchdowns. And he wasn't even really playing a ton of quarterback. Like, he got hurt throughout the year a couple of times. It's kind of come back these last few games. He, was 20 completions, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns against Lebanon and their 31-0 win. And then, not as much, when they only put up 14 points against Springfield. But, man, Middletown's defense has been legit all year. They've only had one game where an opponent scored 20 or more points, and that was their first game of the year against Troy. Everything else has been 13 points or less. So you look at the 3 teams that we're talking about kind of left in this Division 1. All 3 have great defenses that they can rely upon. So I think you see a theme there that it's like to make it far, especially in, Division 1 for Ohio, you have to have a defense that can get you stops. And, I do want to mention Ace Cooper as well and Zamir Reed for Middletown, their receivers. Both have 6 touchdowns apiece, about 600 yards receiving. Both really good weapons there on the outside for them. And then their defense, CJ Bryant, listen to this stat, 113 tackles for the year. And then 17 tackles for a loss, 3 interceptions, 1 pick six, 3 passes deflected.
That's getting up there, man.
Yeah, he's their senior linebacker. Really good player. And then they also have other guys. It's not just him. Virgil Coleman has 5 interceptions on the year. So a little shutdown corner too, stud linebacker, and then they got some guys up front that, J.D. Singletary, also Myles Garrett numbers, 15 sacks on the year.
Myles Garrett numbers, I love that. That's a great way to put it.
And this is 5'9", 185 with 15 sacks playing D-line. So definitely just kind of, like I said, I just wanted to spend a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes talking about the middies because I think, if they're able to advance, I think that Elder and or St. X should, obviously each team has to get through their respective games this week, but you should not be overlooking Middletown if they get there. Middletown's a really good team this year. has a really good defense, and then some guys on offense that can, get down the field, make some plays. So, like I said, just wanted to highlight that for a little bit. And they play Huber Heights Wayne at, let's see where they play at Trotwood.
Trotwood.
So, a little exciting game there. And, I know you like talking about Wayne a little bit more if you want to
Well,
say any more
sure. I
about
mean, I
that.
don't. I mean, listen. I don't. Well, first of all, apologies to anybody who noticed me, including you, Jim, going in and out of the background there for like a solid 3 or 4 minutes. I had a little technical problems. I had to do a quick swap of the power banks. Apparently, this one doesn't work anymore. Thankfully, I had one sitting right to my right of me. I would have saved myself about 3 minutes of embarrassment sitting on this camera and jogging back and forth between the shot if I just would have noticed the other one. Anyways, I think Jacob's spot on with Middletown. We haven't talked about the Middies a ton this year. They absolutely deserve to be talked about in the respect. I think they've had a fantastic year that not a lot of people are talking about. I mean, and then you talk about the regional final matchup. I don't know anything about Wayne's team specifically.
Yeah.
But I just know that Wayne is a tough out no matter what every year. I mean, they're the 6th seed, right? So they had to go through the 2 seed and the 3 seed to get here. Listen, they are a tough out. They're going to be a tall task for this Middletown team. However, I think Middletown's got a good enough team to pull it off, and it'll be exciting if we get a Middletown X Elder state semifinal. That'll be the semifinals, right? That would be the semifinals.
Yeah, I don't know if they'd match them up against each other.
Maybe not match up each other.
I'm not sure if it's Region 1 versus 2 or how they do the matchups, but we'll see that. But with all that being said, we'll move on very quickly to our Division 2, which is the game that you were at this week, which was Anderson and LaSalle. So you can kind of talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. I'll quickly, just for the sake of time, try to be quicker about this than normal because I know I can be a little long-winded when it comes to me talking about the game.
Pal.
Yeah, no kidding, right? The game I typically cover. So I'm going to keep this pretty short and sweet. So if you haven't been listening to us talk about Anderson all year, because, why wouldn't we? They're undefeated. They've pretty much handled everybody they've played this year. With not breaking a big sweat. I know prior to the last week, Withrow kind of gave them a run for their money. This week, it just felt like Anderson. They're playing at home, of course, so that helps. But it just felt like they had a leg up on the Lancers the entire game. And listen, the first quarter of this game, I think, went 0-0. LaSalle had the Anderson offense's number in this game. I'll just put it out there to start. The Reds, I almost called it the Redskins. Holy moly. The Raptors had almost 400 yards of offense, averaged about 11 yards per play. But it just felt like the Lancers were able to get something figured out on defense, or on the defensive side of the ball. But Anderson that Anderson defense, man. That was my whole point of this the whole point of this conversation was going to be. We talk about Owen Scalf and Cooper Kathman and those guys on that Anderson offense a lot because they deserve it. But that Anderson defense is really good. They just, from an observation perspective, seeing it in person for the first time, they for whatever, not for whatever reason, but they just fly to the ball. There's not a guy on that team, that defense, not going full tilt 110% all the time. And it just feels like they just wear out the opposing offense because they just are everywhere. They've got some really, really good players on the back end. Ace Alston, Kimari Tai, Mark Madden, I think that's his name. Matt Madden, something like that. Anyways, they're just very, very good on defense. And of course, it's led by Brady Kuhn, who had another fantastic game on Friday night. But LaSalle and Anderson were a decent, a close matchup in terms of the Anderson offense and LaSalle defense. It just really boiled down to Anderson making the plays when they needed them. This game, keep in mind, LaSalle went up 7-0, and almost immediately Mark Madden 50-yard punt return touchdown. Then Anderson got a humongous play to Cooper Kathman, 55 yards down the field. Jordan Davis cleaned it up, 4-yard run for a touchdown. They're up 14-7. 3 minutes later, Owen Scal, 47-yard touchdown run on a quarterback draw. Very next drive, Jared Lindsey, 43-yard interception touchdown, right? 28-7. Tyson Weaver, a minute later, 48-yard touchdown from Owen Scalf. This is all in the second quarter. That's what I'm trying to get at here. They put up 35 unanswered in the second quarter alone and did not score the rest of the night, and that's all they needed.
Yeah.
And that's just what Anderson does offensively. It's like almost kind of like Taft, right? I mean, when they start rolling, they just don't stop. And they slowed down a little bit in the second half, and that's credit to the LaSalle defense because they really played. LaSalle did not give up. I will say that.
Yeah.
And they did come back in this game. They brought it within one score. End of the game, LaSalle got the ball back with, I think, a minute 30 left, 2 timeouts, and on 2 straight plays from the 15, Brady Kuhn had a sack, got LaSalle all the way back down to the 1-yard line, and then Javier Carter threw an interception to Kimari Tai. That was it. That was the game.
Yeah.
Whenever they needed a big play or they needed a big stop, they got it. And they're just a well-oiled football machine. There you go. Yeah. That was me trying to stay not long-winded. I hope.
No, that was a really good job. No, I just feel for LaSalle because it's like, man, you come out that first quarter, and then like to start the second, you take that 7-0 lead. And they're probably feeling good about themselves. Like, okay, like we got this offense figured out. You know, we maybe play the time and possession battle. You know, find a way to squeak out a win here. And then, like you said, it's just 35 unanswered points from Anderson.
In 10 minutes, by the way.
And multiple ways of scoring, too.
Yeah.
You got a punt return touchdown thrown in there. You know, you said there was a deep ball completed where then they just handed it off for a little 4-yard score. Quarterback run for 50 yards for a touchdown. Interception return, and then another deep ball for a touchdown. So it's like when you're getting hit that many different ways in terms of chunk play scoring, it's like, I mean, you have to have that offense that's explosive enough to keep up because it doesn't matter how good your defense is. All it takes is one busted coverage or even a special teams play where somebody just misses an assignment or misses a tackle, and then it's boom, off to the races for 6. So, and you got to credit Anderson too. They're just, for sure, they are well-oiled football machine.
Yeah, sure. It's just from LaSalle's perspective, right? It felt like this year they kind of struggled a little bit offensively all year. Maybe didn't have as much juice as they did maybe in years past. But Javier Carter, I don't know if he's a junior or a senior. I'd have to look that up. But he is very good with his legs.
He is so much better than what his stats say. Like in the game I watched, he was the only reason they were in that game against Elder. And I don't know if it was the same way in this one, too.
He made a few. I mean, listen, he made a few mistakes. I mean, they're high school level players, right? They're going to make mistakes. It happens. He made a few mistakes, but by all means, he is an absolutely exceptional athlete. And he absolutely was the reason why LaSalle kind of came back into this game later. As the second half wore on, LaSalle was able to get back within one score. And that just shows the non-quit from LaSalle, right? I mean, you wouldn't expect them to. They played hard, came up short, but I don't think it's anything to be disappointed in, right? They didn't lay over after giving up 35 unanswered. The truth is I think LaSalle. I mean, and is Javier Carter a junior?
Senior. He's a senior.
He's a senior. Okay, so that's unfortunate. But listen, like I said, they can't believe. I don't think they left that game with their embarrassed.
Left it all out on the field.
Right. Do you know what I mean? They obviously they're disappointed, but I think that was a well fought game for them. And I thought it was a great game, just from the perspective of just good football being played. You mentioned that quarterback run. Scalf was untouched, right? So just perfect play call at the perfect time. I will say one more thing, and then we can move on quickly. Anderson. They need to be a little careful with jumping out to leads like that and then kind of taking their foot off the gas, especially offensively, because that's what this game was, in basically what it felt like in the second half. Right, they jumped out to such a big lead so quickly. It felt like they got conservative with their play calling, and I mean by that, and I'm not making a dig at anybody in particular. I'm just making an observation. they ran a lot of quarterback draws, and it just didn't feel like it was working. For whatever, it
Yeah.
just feels like Anderson's at their best when they are just going. They just do
Yeah.
not stop, and it just felt like they got away from that in the second half. Now, obviously, it turned out, it worked out. They won the game, but I know who they play next week, and I don't think they can be conservative next week.
No. And that's what I was going to get to here. Just real quick, spend a minute or two on this because we don't really cover Trotwood like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, man, we've talked about Harrison all year, and Harrison beat up, or not beat up, but they beat a good, Kings team. Kings was in the
Mm-hmm.
ECC with Anderson and Winton Woods and was really good
Mm-hmm.
all year. They won 35-31. So this just shows you kind of how Trotwood is this year. I mean, 49-0, and I don't have the box score for Trotwood's stats, but they held Harrison to 1 yard passing. Brady Lawhorn's stats were 4 for 11, 1 yard, 3 interceptions. And then they held Harrison to 34 yards rushing. So Harrison literally had 35 total yards that whole game and 4 first downs. So I think Anderson's offense might be in for a little test here with this Trotwood defense. I think
Mm-hmm.
they, might just have the matchups to kind of be able to shut some of the stuff Anderson likes to do with their kind of, I call it like a horizontal run game because they throw a lot of screen passes. It's like, it's not really a run game, but it's a version of the run game, running all
Mm-hmm.
these screen passes, getting the ball out quick. If Trotwood can kind of slow down some of those, those plays and be disciplined playing over the top and not let anything back, I think this game could also be really good. Like how all the hype that this
Mm-hmm.
Elder and St. X game's getting. Yes, Anderson and Trotwood aren't rivals, but I think it could be a really good game too if Trotwood plays the way they played against Harrison.
Absolutely, and I'll quickly just make a few notes on Trotwood. For whatever reason, I guess they don't play in a conference at all.
Hmm.
They've only played one league game according to High School Sports Illustrated. They played Dunbar, and that was a league game, but that's it. Right? They've played teams. Let's just go down the list here. They've played Springfield. They've played Alter. They've played Cathedral in Indianapolis. They played Mount Healthy, and they played Walsh Jesuit in their regular season. It's kind of a weird mashup of teams.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to Cathedral, um, Center Grove, and Walsh Jesuit, which I know all three of those schools are pretty good. So
Yeah.
definitely they have a great team this year. I mean, they beat Alter 20-6, right? And that's a big win. And then of
Alter
course
was solid too.
yeah, you just talked about
Well, and they beat Springfield too.
Yep, they beat Springfield, and they obviously you just talked about beat Harrison pretty handily. So it'll be definitely a big game to watch.
Yeah, and then we're gonna kind of just skip over Division 3 because
Or
there's
Division
nothing.
3.
Yeah, Baden ended up losing 23-16 to Tippecanoe. So congratulate Baden on their good season. Sucks that they came up, a little short, but there's not really much for us to talk about in D3 after that. And, hopefully Baden, they'll be able to build off of it for next year and put together another solid year next year. But, man, Indian Hill ended up getting the win over Taft. So, huge win for Indian Hill. They've been lights out all year. I really did think Taft was going to make a run this year just with some of the guys that they had, but Indian Hill had other plans, and especially Devlin Daniel. I mean, he didn't really have his best game either. That's the funny thing. He went 5 for 11, 93 yards, interception, and then one rushing touchdown on 14 carries. But
Definitely not his best game of all time, but he's been rock solid for them all season for sure. Evan Riggs and Dylan Hartman, I know those two names at the top of my head are both worth shouting out as well. They've been very good for the Braves as well. And I
Yeah,
just looked up the box score. There's no Taft box score, so I can't
yeah,
definitively say that they had an incredible defensive performance. But I think that's been Indian Hill's kind of calling card all year. And if you know anything about their head coach, John Rodenberg, that's kind of his MO, is just tough, aggressive, solid defensive play. And I think that it shines here, I think, the most. Because, I mean, we've talked about it all year. Taft's explosives were just ridiculous. And they held him in check in this game, right? That's a big feat. I think that's not to be overlooked.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to just highlight, too, with Devlin Daniel, even though he didn't have his best game last game, he's thrown for 1,000 yards this year, 13 touchdowns, 3 picks. But then on the ground, he also has another 1,000. He has 1,000 yards rushing and 20 touchdowns rushing. So just talk. I mean, he's a big kid too, 6'1", 205. Definitely has that dual threat presence. Not as much of a thrower, more of a runner, but man, he's really good and been just a great surprise. I think for I don't know how much of a surprise he really is, but just that leap that he kind of took this year for Indian Hill was huge.
And it's funny also to note as well about Mr. Daniel. Congratulations to him on what's been an incredible year, as Jake already said. But he's a junior, and he's actually committed to play baseball. So, believe it or not, I think he's a better baseball player because he's committed.
Why is it always? It always works out like that. It's there's always it's always baseball.
I think he's committed to Mississippi State, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely a very good athlete for sure. And then Indian Hill plays who beat CHCA? Valley
View. So, and they are really good. I don't know much about their roster and kind of who they played. I just know their record's been really good all year. I don't know if Valley View's lost yet this year. And if they did, they only have one loss, I believe.
But let's see. They handled CHCA pretty handily, did they not?
And they did. It was 31-15. So
definitely they're 11. They're 11-1, and they lost. The only loss they've taken all season was to Coldwater, 49-48 in overtime in week 1.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. So definitely Indian Hill's got their work cut out for them this week. But based on data, you wouldn't expect anything to change for Indian Hill. I think if they just play their brand of football and their style of football, they're going to put themselves in a good position to win. But with all that being said, we'll wrap up our Ohio segment and cover the last few teams left in Kentucky. Hopefully be done with this in about 10 or 15 minutes. It's already taken up a lot of your
time. Wait, you know what, Jacob? This is all of our viewers out there as well. We're on a better track than we were last week. So no matter what, it's an improvement. So I'll just, you know how it rolls with me and the Kentucky stuff. I'll go pretty quick through it because we talk, just so much about Ohio. But we do have a few teams left in the Kentucky side of things. So we'll start out with the traditional 6A, or this is 1A. Shoot, we're all the way at the bottom. Let's start out with 6A, shall we? 6A. There it goes. And we have one team left, and that would be the Ryle Raiders. They defeated Ballard 48-20 last week. They play Frederick Douglass this coming weekend on Friday night at Frederick Douglass. So they're still doing home and away games in Kentucky at this point. The matchup against Frederick Douglass, I think, for the Raiders is going to be tough. I don't know a ton about Frederick Douglass, but I do know that they have been pretty solid this year, as you can see there from their scores throughout the playoffs. They've handled their business pretty easily, averaging 43 points a game, right? I mean, just take those two scores together. But Ryle's kind of done the same thing, right? I mean, 48-0, 41-20. So this will be a good matchup. I think Ryle's key to the game. Just feed Jacob Savage. He's their guy. He's up for if he's not, he should be up for Mr. Football in Kentucky. He's very, very good. two-way players. So, he's kind of the leader on offense and defense. I think it'll be worth keeping an eye on that. And if they can get the ground game rolling, I expect Ryle to make it to the semifinals. I think the Raiders also have unfinished business. They lost a close one last year to Trinity in the state finals, or the state championship. So keep an eye on for that. We'll move on to, I think we don't have any teams left in 5A, but we do need to briefly touch.
Cooper lost to Scott.
Yeah, Scott County, not Scott from Northern Kentucky. I get those two mixed up all the time. I'm like, or the first time we looked at this, I'm like, dang, Scott County, man, they're all of a sudden they're on a roll. Not at the same school, but they did beat Cooper 55-34. I think it's a disappointing end of the season for the Eagles. They were looking for, I think, a little bit more, especially kind of in the same boat as Ryle, coming off a really close state championship game loss last year. The Cooper Jaguars, sorry, not the Eagles. But I think that they can continue to build. They've had couple great seasons in a row and make more momentum and be back stronger next year.
Well, I think they kind of fell under they're similar to me as like Moeller this year in Ohio, because they had senior quarterback Cam O'Hara, who had a ton of success as a junior. So I think it was just like people were kind of just, and rightfully so, you have that success the year prior. You kind of assume that they're going to do the same thing the following year. And they've just they had literally only a couple losses all year. It's not even they had a bad year. It's just.
No, it's just, and you look at their losses too, right? I mean, look who they lost to. Anderson. Highlands. They beat Ryle. They lost to DuPont Manual, which I'm pretty sure almost everybody who played them this year from this tri-state lost to them. So definitely not a bad season by any means. I think they maybe were looking for a little. I'm getting all mixed up here. There we go. I think that maybe they were looking for a little bit more, but I think they can definitely build. I know that the quarterback underneath O'Hara, they're expecting big things out of him as well. I don't know his name, so apologies there, but I have heard that a lot of people expect him to be good as well. Okay, so we'll move on to 4A. We have a few teams to talk about here. We'll start with Covington Catholic. Close game against Johnston Central, which I think I mentioned last week. I said Johnston Central by no means was a pushover. The Colonels got it done, 36-29. They match up with Boyle County at Boyle County this coming Friday, and Boyle County is quite good.
I do want to point out from Covcast's game, Cash Harney went 1 for 5 with 9 yards, but then he had 8 rushing attempts for 161 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Dylan Geiser had 5 rushes for 144 and 3 touchdowns.
And I think that's that. I covered that. I covered Covcath very early this year, and that was what stood out to me the most about their offensive output was just that Harney and Geyser, that duo in the backfield, are just very good. They complement each other very well. And I think that was on full display here once again against Johnston Central. They move on to play Boyle County. This is not an easy matchup. By the way, that's the Baltimore Ravens B. Just putting that out there. They lost to Lexington Catholic, who I believe is very good in their own right. Yeah, they're pretty good too. My point is that they beat St. X, right? So automatically and they beat Frederick Douglass, who we talked about as well. They beat Highlands, right? So they are by no means a pushover. They're going to be a tough game for Covcath. I look forward to this matchup. If it wasn't at Boyle County, I probably would ask them to send me there, but I don't even know where Boyle County is. So I
mean, I will. One more point about their box score: if Cash Myers for them has 22 tackles again on defense, I think they'll be all right. He had 22 tackles last week, 15 solos, and then Cash Harney and Geyser are also playing both ways. They had 8 tackles and 7 tackles apiece. So
absolutely,
it's that time of year.
And then if you just one of the things I know we complain about the KHSAA site a lot, but one of the things they do that I appreciate is they kind of put in all the entire Class 4A's standings and kind of how that sets up. And Boyle County's up here 413 to 115. They got a really high RPI, which means they've played really good teams. So they're a very good team. But Covcath's not far behind, right? So it should be a great game. this coming Friday, and we'll move on quickly. I believe we still have Highlands to talk about. Highlands beat Ashland Blazer 45-7 on Friday. They play Corbin on Friday night. I don't know anything about Corbin. Let's see. Oh, they're very good as well. They did lose 3 there for a couple to Johnson Central, Frederick Douglass. So some of the same teams keep popping up there, Jacob. But I personally think Highlands is a front runner to win this game. I think that they've got the right stuff going on right now. I mean, they've only given up 14 points so far in the playoffs. I think they roll. And then I'm just very excited about this matchup. And then, of course, with Highlands, really quickly, as long as they get Trayton Lorenzen, that's how you say his name, Taden Lorenzen.
Taden Lorenzen, yeah.
Taden Lorenzen. I'm losing my marbles tonight. Maybe that when I was trying to fix my power block, it shocked me or something. If they get Taden Lorenzen warmed up and rolling, I think that they should have a pretty good chance to win that game. We'll move quickly on to 3A for the sake of time. Of course, 3A, still Lloyd Memorial, the Juggernauts, continue to roll. They beat Henry County 48-20 on Friday night. They play Russell on this Friday at home, so it'll be a home game for the Juggernauts. And just to check, Russell, I don't know much about them. If it'll load. It looks like they're pretty good as well. They did get beat up by Ashland Blazer, who I'm pretty sure, Lloyd Memorial. Oh, no, that was Highlands.
Yeah.
Got them mixed up there for a second. But I think that the Juggernauts are just a really good team this year.
Yeah.
And I foresee them winning. I don't know if you have anything to add, Jacob.
No, I mean, I'm rooting for them. They got the coolest nickname.
Absolutely.
Kentucky schools.
I do know this. Lloyd Memorial's they're a very good rushing team. They're very balanced offensive attack as a whole, but they're very good at rushing the ball. And if they end up here in the state finals against Christian Academy Louisville, you'll be like you're transported back to 1945. Just a hard nose running the ball, because I know Christian Academy Louisville is one of the better rushing teams in the state.
Nice.
Just kind of when I've sifted through the stats in the past. We'll move on to 2A. I believe we still have, of course, Beechwood.
Just Beechwood, yeah.
Yeah, Beechwood moved on, handled Walton Verona 42-7, as if anybody had any doubt. They play Prestonsburg, who, let's see, are undefeated.
They have not lost this year.
Yeah, undefeated, and they've pretty much beaten the heck out of everybody else anyways. So this will be a good game. You never know. So keep an eye out on that. It's at home, so it'll be at Beechwood. I think the Tigers should win this game, but Prestonsburg I don't think is a pushover. So looking forward to that one, and then they would play the winner of Belfry and Breathitt County. I don't know anything about Belfry. It seems like they're very good, but Breathitt County, I do know Breathitt County is a very good team this year as well. So there's 2A, and then finally to cap it off, we'll go back to 1A since that's where we kind of started. This was the This was the class we had the most teams in, I think, in terms of our area. Holy Cross was undefeated. Disappointing end of their season. They lost to Newport. But on the other hand, since Newport's also our team, big win for Newport. So congrats to the Wildcats. I forget their head coach's name is. That's right, Mr. Coach Wiggins. They came into the preseason show at Gold Star this year, and we're very, very excited about their team. I think that, I don't, know how much of a talent disparity there is between Holy Cross and Newport, but that's a big win for the Wildcats. They set themselves up with a matchup with Kentucky Country Day. And then I
really want to see this Newport Central Catholic matchup.
We're almost there, right? Yeah. And that's a big rivalry. They don't play each other very often because I think they have, I don't know if there's a way they schedule or something, but they don't play each other very often. So that'll be exciting. So Newport Central Catholic, the Thoroughbreds beat Bishop Brossart, another one of our schools, 42-21. We kind of mentioned it last week. If Bishop Brossart could just, hold them to 6 points or whatever the heck they were doing earlier in the year. Didn't quite happen. The Thoroughbreds galloped ahead of the Bishop Brossart team. I don't remember Bishop Brossart's. I think it's Mustangs. I could be wrong. And then we'll move on.
You were right.
Here, I'll just tell you. Is it Mustangs? Oh, look at that! Right. Look at that! See, I'm still all there. We'll move on quickly. I've mentioned Raceland, the Rams. I think that they are probably the top dog in this class. So We'll see if one of our schools can get in there and give them a run for their money, but just keep an eye on Raceland here in 1A. And that'll wrap it up for Kentucky.
Which
Jacob, I think
means we're about wrapped up too.
we cleared it by 6 minutes this week. We're getting
Yeah.
better, but obviously there's less to talk about here as the coming weeks. As of course, there's less teams playing, so it'll get shorter and shorter until the end of the season. But of course, as always, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us again on your Monday night, enjoying to talk a little bit about high school football. Some awesome playoff action. That Elder Princeton game was one for the ages. James Sprague, one of our writers, you're a lucky man. I'm jealous of him. I wish I was there to cover that game, but the Anderson LaSalle game was good as well. Jacob, I don't know if you're going to be reporting again this week.
I'll see. I'm not sure yet.
Okay. I know I will be. I don't know what game yet, but I will be live covering a game this Friday night. So make sure to check out our Twitter to keep up with all the action of my featured game and any other featured games we have on Friday night. For any more final scores, you can go to tristatefootball.com/scores. And then, of course, as always, if you want to check out the Tri-State Football Monday Night Rewind, you can get it on all major podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you may get your podcasts from. Of course, you can watch this on YouTube as well, and it'll be posted to the social media accounts, so you can check out check out the podcast there and check out all the amazing other content we do on social media. And then, of course, as always, a plug for the website. Check out that awesome website. It's been a great tool to have this year. And that's about it for our show. So thank you guys all for listening and or watching, however you consume this podcast. We appreciate it, and we'll be back on next Monday.
Yes, we will.
Have a good evening.